Hey everyone, welcome back to More of the Letter. I gotta tell you, right now I'm enjoying this particular part of the game, if only because it's more character introspection, and we don't get a lot of those. And when we do, it's very meaningful, and I get to learn a lot more about the characters than I already know firsthand through, when you see them at first sight. First glance, for that matter, sorry. Right now, though, it's a lot better if only because we've been given a grace period away from the creepy vibes and the horror that comes with it. So for now, I'm enjoying it. So with that said, guys, hope you continue to enjoy watching, and let's keep it rolling. Alright guys, we're back. Aside from Kylie's occasional chatter, the whole dinner goes by without another word exchanged between the two of us. Somehow we managed to make it through the whole thing without triggering another tension-riddled conversation. A good thing, perhaps. One, because Kylie's sitting in front of us, and two, I probably won't be able to hold a proper conversation with my mind heavy with thoughts. We depart from the coffee house just as the evening crowd starts to thin out. The same wordless silence fills our short walk back to the school, except for when Luke gestures at a nearby flower shop and enters it without waiting for Kylie and I. He emerges minutes after, carrying a bouquet of daffodils with the same softened expression back on his face. Unlike the previous ones, he tucks this one away almost as soon as he looks up at us, a moment he's not willing to share. At my confusion, he merely answers with a shrug and continues walking.
For someone important.
I accept it for what it is, if only because he doesn't owe me an explanation. It does leave more questions about him, each one as baffling as the previous ones. Those are the last words spoken this evening before we head our own ways. Up until I arrive home, I still can't understand him. Here, however, a whole different set of questions await me. And much like everything today, it comes with the littlest of things. A lone note greets me upon reaching my unit's door. Its edges flutter lightly against the faint, warm breeze passing through the small complex. My hand stops short of twisting the knob as I stare at it, though I don't make any moves to take it. Ashton's neat script lines its surface. Dropped by earlier, you weren't around. They're easing Belle out of the sedatives tomorrow, trying to see if they can take her out of coma. Good news, huh? Her aunt also wants to talk to us, so if you could come to the hospital, that'd be great. Anyway, how are you doing? Call me when you get this. See ya. Ash. The message he left short and straight to the point, but not without the underlying hint of friendship. He mentions nothing of the accident or the ongoing investigation, except for a small request from Isabella's aunt for us to visit the next day. Apparently, they're taking her out of her medically induced coma to see if she's improved. Suddenly, it's the closest thing we have to hope right now. I really hope so, because I actually miss her. It's been a while. Like, we've been playing with all these other characters, and they're great. They all have their eccentricities. I like every bit of knowing about them, but I do miss Isabella for her straightforwardness, basically. I can almost hear it in a manner Ashton ends the formal tone in his note when he checks on my well-being at the end. He still has no idea. Any other day, the former part of his message will likely prod at the piercing envy I've been holding, while the latter will probably send my heart aflutter. Little things from him that I want to mean something more. Yet, this time, only guilt fills me and my eyes briefly shifts towards Isabella's empty unit. Luke's words repeat inside my head as I do so.
Is that all you are? Just some lovesick woman craving for another's affection? I sincerely hope not. Kylie spoke highly of you.
Have I always been like this?
This selfish? In truth, I've intended to call Ash after the dinner. If I didn't catch him here, invite him to that party like I planned. There's time and he's still probably awake at around this hour. But my hands won't move. And perhaps it is for the better. Until I've had the time to think this through, it'll be best if I distance myself from those I've been clinging tightly to. Find a different perspective and see things for what they are. With a soft sigh, I reach for the note and crumple it under my hand. The knob twists open with much ease when I enter this time. Maybe after some introspection, it'll be easier. For tomorrow, I have that woman in the mansion to worry about. The night wears on without further incident, despite the great number of thoughts swimming inside my head. Come morning, there's only a hush, a strange sort of stillness, unlike the ones greeting me every morn. This one's uneasy, tight with anticipation, like a string stretched thin, merely waiting for the proper time to snap. Granted, it doesn't make my day any less pleasant, but the edge is there. It hangs in the hallway. It lingers in the empty unit next to mine. It follows me even as I head out, carrying the same little hope Ashton's note brought last night. I just wish I can easily believe in it. It takes a minimum of 21 days for a habit to form, or so claimed a speaker in conference I once attended. Yet it only took less than 3 for the hospital's sterile scent to lose its sharp odor. Perhaps less than that for the nurses to start glancing at me with an air of familiarity, for my body to know instinctively where I should head to. Which turn to take, how far it is from the nearest stairwell, approximately how many steps until I reach her door. 30 to be exact, though I've honestly stopped counting sometime during my second visit. At some point, even the faint beeping from her room has also grown oddly comforting. A strange thing to seek reassurance from. Times like this, however, it's all that we have. Isabella's lucky. By some miracle, by some sheer force of will, she holds on and pushes back just as death pulls. How long will it last, though? Even now, she's still a hair's breadth away from losing that struggle, and no matter how promising today might be, the doubt still runs deep. At least for me, it does. Sometimes it's better not to hope too much. Although both Zachary and Ashton don't seem to be of the same mind, with the smiles they each greet me the moment I arrive. A small part of me expects this meeting to be awkward with Zachary here after he saw me in such a pitiful state. But it is him who first offers me a seat. If he remembers or still has an opinion about what happened 2 days ago, he makes no mention of it again, likely out of some sense of courtesy. However, between only the two of them, there's an uneasy atmosphere dangling, thick with inexplicable tension. I'd ask, but neither appears willing to explain anything. I suppose this is how we'll keep it together for now. With moments filled with superficial smiles and lukewarm attempts at cordiality.
How is she?
That question, at least, is anything but half-hearted. And as if spurred by it, Ashton looks up, the first time he does so since his brief welcome earlier. His eyes have been glued to the room nearest us at the door, only slightly ajar, offering everyone outside nothing but a sparse look of what's inside. All I see in it is uncertainty, yet he stares at it with something close to hopeful. Like doing so will summon another miracle from the depths of near impossibility. Bloody, it's all over his face long before his voice breaks the silence.
Doing okay so far. They've reduced the sedation hours ago, but it'll take a while before we know anything for sure.
The Ashton I know will never subscribe to that kind of false hope. If there's anyone present here it's Zachary. For reasons no longer unknown to me, he does it anyway.
The nurses are just monitoring her now.
He gestures with his head towards the door, just as one of the said nurses moves past inside.
Her aunt's not in there, though?
Nah, she's speaking with the doctors right now. She'll be back in a few.
She didn't say anything before she left?
Don't know. I arrived just when she stepped out. You're gonna have to ask Ash about that. He came in here hours before I did. She was talking to him about something.
Is that a joke? Ashton arrived earlier than you did?
Yeah, miracle, ain't it?
I'm sitting right here, you two.
A peal of laughter follows his remark despite ourselves and this mess of a situation. Immediately, the mood around us lifts, if only a little. I doubt it'll shift back to normal entirely, not when there are still a great number of things we're intentionally leaving unspoken. Amazingly how simple this is, though, pretending everything's the way they used to be with only a few words.
We ain't the only ones, though. Bella would probably have had plenty to say about it, you know?
She wakes up at 4, Zach. Every day. That's inhuman on so many levels. Besides, none of you can even get out of bed at 6, so get off my case. If Isabella's got a problem with my morning habits, she can complain about it when she's out of coma.
When, not if. Now, of all times he chooses to be like this, decides to forego all the hard truths to chase after that one light at the end of the tunnel. Despite Zachary's reassurances days ago, I'm not foolish enough to carry an expectation as heavy as that. Knowing that she has the chance and taking comfort in the idea is one thing. Clinging onto it and blindly believing what might be improbable is another.
You don't sound too worried about this. Didn't the doctor say there'll be no guarantee? This is just to see if she's improved. That still doesn't mean she'll get better.
Yeah, well, it's not like there's anything we can do about this. She's already there, we're already here. I'd rather not lose sleep over this if I can help it. I've got other things to worry about.
All lies. If he truly believes that, he won't be raking a hand through his hair after that remark. I've seen him do it more times than I can count to know he only does it when he's frustrated. If this truly hasn't already weighed on him, the lines of his shoulders won't have that tired slump, nor in his voice will have that exhausted lilt. It has all been there since this started. It's not going to disappear anytime soon. Because if there's anything all these years has taught me, it's that Ashton hates losing anyone, both in figurative and literal sense. It happened with his mom, it happened with his dad. And with her like this, on the brink and teetering between life and death, he'll try everything to keep her. You'd think the world would be much more forgiving once people like him start thinking in such a way. But it is a harsh place still, and sometimes, as good as the notion it is, there are things that are simply out of our control. When it reminds us of it, it does so brusquely, in the form of another voice piercing through the dense silence in the hall.
Miss Santos? Miss Santos! Patient is seizing. Get rapid response here. Call for Doctors Nicholas and Beatrix Stat.
She's a little too calm when she's saying that, too. She's going through a seizure? Tensions returns to the hallway in an instant. For a couple of agonizing minutes, only the sounds behind their room reverberates into the hall. A calm voice urgently calling orders, 2 sets of feet moving about, the rapid beeping of the machines inside. Suddenly, merely standing in the hall soon proves to be smothering. Too small, too tight, too stifling as the rest of the world fades into nothing, and only the room in front of us matters. Next to Zachary and I, Ashton now stands rigid. The lines of his jaw are clenched firmly while he gapes at the tiny opening in the door with wide eyes. I haven't even noticed when he has risen from his seat, but a struggle is clear on his face. Though before he can take a single step forward, Zachary's hand lands on his shoulder, holding him back. Despite his own worries, he is nothing but forbearing when he mutters his reassurances.
Chill, man. Let them do their work. Leave it to them. She's in good hands, so please, give those guys inside a little credit. They were able to save her the first time, yeah? It's not a code. She hasn't coded yet.
Almost as soon as if to confirm it, the loudspeakers crackle to life, the broadcast echoing Zachary's words throughout the whole hospital. Rapid response, room 49. Rapid response, room 49. Paging Dr. Nicholas Vogel and Dr. Beatrix Vogel. Rapid response, please head to room 49 stat. The message blasts on for another minute before it finally ceases. It takes less than that for the hospital's emergency response team to arrive, but their presence does nothing to ease the disquiet in each of us. Ashton's most of all. The minute a nurse shuts the door firmly on us, he releases the breath he's been holding. Along with it are every shard of hope he'd allow himself to carry. Now crushed under the weight of what we've just seen and every expectations he carried. It's not surprising that when the air around us becomes too heavy, well, that's a typo, I guess. For someone like him, he's the one who first steps out. Like every time this has happened.
I'm going to step out for a while. I need some air.
Well, Becca does know him really well.
Ashton?
Without another word, he gently brushes Zachary's hand off his shoulder and leaves. Not to run away. Never to run away. He's still too stubborn for that. His pride won't let him, when he knows he hasn't exhausted his options. This is so he can force what remains of his wits into some semblance of order away from prying eyes, and though Ash doesn't say a single thing, Zachary understands this need quite well. It's a place he's been to numerous times. It's one he's requested of us for reasons I've yet to know and he's yet to tell me. Hence he refrains from voicing these thoughts or stopping the younger man once he removes himself from the hall. There's still, however, an undeniable edge to his voice when he urges me to do the opposite, an underlying anxiety beneath that smiling facade. One I allow myself to return in spite of the hesitation his next words spur.
You should go after him.
What? And leave you here?
I can wait. And I don't think those guys in there will be coming out anytime soon. You'll just get bored. Besides, he listens to you.
That's also true.
Before, perhaps.
He still will. Nothing about that has changed.
He's a grown man, not a baby. I don't have to console him every time something upsets his manly ego.
Doubt must have surfaced in my face for all my efforts to mask it, because the next thing I know, he's laughing. Tired, though lighter than I've heard from him these past few days, like a heaviness temporarily lifting. I wonder how much this whole thing has taken a toll on him. Strangely, that fact has never occurred to me until now. But even then, he continues as if nothing's wrong. Now, along with reluctance, swims a twinge of guilt. All this time I've been looking at how this has only affected both Ashton and I when Zachary's as much in need of comfort. After all, he understands Isabella in ways neither the rest of us
But
can.
you know it can be one sometimes. Go on. I'll let you two know if anything changes here. And I get the sense you two still have a lot of, things to, talk about.
That much is true. But I know Ashton. He's not a man who expresses himself freely. He will not yield until he's ready, and this one he might not be too willing to share yet. Still, a huge part of me wishes to go to him. Well, we all know what we're gonna do, right? So we're gonna do it. Although before a single excuse forms in my head, Zachary makes that decision for me. Already, he's showing me a knowing smirk. It spreads across his face the moment I look up. With a chuckle and a casual wave of his hand, he gestures for me to leave. Don't worry about it. Check on him. He needs someone to do that for him.
I'd knock some sense into him myself if I can. Like I said, he listens when it's you.
We'll see about that. Thanks, Zachary. I'll be back soon.
Nah, take your time. But just remember what I told you before.
He has known prior to making that suggestion, in the same way that Sleaze Luke reads it in my face with much ease. Where I'll always go, who I'll often pick when faced with a similar choice, or how it'll bother me if I don't. The answer's a habit now after uttering the same thing for so many years. But what drives it is not important. Feelings are irrelevant at present, the whole of it unwarranted in fact. That's what Zachary has been trying to get at all this time, isn't it? I've been too furious to understand, busy swaying between anger and my own affection since that night. Because at the core of it, we're still friends, aren't we? There will be time to think about these matters later. For now, as I leave Zach in search of him, I'll be what he needs me to be. I find him in minutes later, in a hallway not far from Isabella's room. He sits alone, still his gaze trained on a cup of coffee he cradles between his hands. But I know him well enough to know he'll never take a sip of it. Too bitter. He prefers one dumped with a shite load of sugar. He's only keeping it for the warmth. Occasionally, he'll sway the cup lightly, only to send the dark liquid swirling close to the edge. Like disturbing its still surface will show him all the answers he needs, all the miracles he's hoping for. If it provides him any, he makes no mention of it. When I take the empty space next to him, he doesn't bother moving either, or returning my greeting with a slight nod, like he always would. Under the corridor's harsh lights, he appears older like this. There's a deeper set to his eyes, a hollowness not present before, and it's most certainly not due to exhaustion anymore. Seeing it so openly displayed in such a manner, however, unease trickles into me. A small fear in my own efforts, and any words I can come up with won't be enough. That only the cruel possibility I've seen back there will be all there is left to say. Nevertheless, it's still worth a try.
That coffee is going to get cold soon if you don't drink it. A waste of money, if you ask me.
For a fleeting second, he takes his eyes off it, glancing at me from the corners of his eyes. It doesn't last too long, but in that short exchange, it feels as if he's searching my face for something. And when he finds nothing of it in me, he merely lets out a breath and holds the cup out to me.
You can have it if it bothers you.
No thanks. I already drank a cup this morning. Besides, their coffee here tastes like shite. I've had enough of it these past few days to last me a lifetime. I think they're using the same brand, you know? The one Isabella likes so much.
I've not meant to bring her up, but she's woven herself into our lives so much that even talk as simple as this has something to remind us of her. Now it's pitching back towards unsafe territory, right into topics I'm hoping to avoid.
We're both bad at this, aren't we?
You noticed that just now?
Afterwards, Ashton immediately falls silent again, the good humor in him gone. I follow soon after, unable to string the proper words to keep this going, and an uncomfortable air sets. No surprise right there. All this time we've been skirting around the issue, the hard truths we're forced to deal with. It's a way of coping, contradicting the kind of people we both are. No wonder we'll fall apart at some point. And if what happened today suggests anything, it'll be easier for us if we steel ourselves as early as now. Even if a tiny part of me still wishes to believe, there's simply too much working against her now. But is saying such a thing appropriate? Given the situation, with him like this, I'm afraid doing so will bring more harm, good intentions aside. Oh, you know what I'm gonna say, guys. I'm all about optimism. Well, I'm also about realistic optimism at that, but in these types of situations, I'm never the one to believe in the lower levels of, well, the negativity. So I pull back, raining the cold hard facts as well as every truth that will hurt. All in favor of an echo and frankly a pale imitation of Zachary's reassurances.
She'll get through this.
Couldn't you have worded that any less insincere? With some doubt? Like, I hear it already. I wish there's more conviction to my tone, or at least a hint of certainty to it. But try as I might, I don't know if I can still put my faith in those words. At some point, perhaps I did. Before the image of her lying still in that bed has become a permanent fixture in my head. When picturing her back on her feet is as easy as breathing, or when the reality of her situation hasn't sunk in yet. Now that it has, every comforting word, heard or said, leaves a bitter aftertaste. I hate myself for trying to keep that hope in him while I can no longer convince myself of it. It feels foolish and hypocritical in every way. Ash chuckles in spite of it, not without a hint of his fatigue, but still light and unreserved, as if remembering a memory he's keen on.
She's rubbing off on you.
Who? Belle? Please, we're poles apart.
A few years ago, maybe, but you're more alike than you think now. Otherwise, you wouldn't be saying that.
Maybe it's just Zachary. You know, the big guy can also be like that. It's why Belle and him get along well.
You don't hang out with him that much, though. In fact, if another person were to look at you and Scaredy-Cat, they'd probably think she's the childhood friend, not me.
That gives me pause. More than anyone, he's the person who I'll always have a place for. He should know that. Yet, I can't bring myself to refute it, or even be angry at him for the suggestion. There's only laughter when the question comes.
Are you jealous then?
Not really. It's hard to be when it's someone like her.
It answers everything and nothing, but the hushed note his voice takes speaks volumes. Of things he will never openly state. Of questions we never thought to ask until now. Well, I mean, it's pretty obvious. He doesn't need to state it at all. How different would it all have been without her? If she never moved next door. If she never dropped her passport that one autumn morning at the park. If Ashton had not found it. If she never had the unfortunate luck of finding something horrid left in that sofa. Endless possibilities, but at the heart of it are two things I will hold true. One, these are what ifs I no longer want to know the answers to, and neither does Ashton.
I should probably tone down on the teasing after this.
Probably?
I might still do it, maybe once or twice a month. She makes the weirdest faces when she's annoyed. It's priceless.
But I'm sure she'd appreciate that. You were pretty merciless.
Yeah, I owe her an apology. For a lot of things. I think I will. Apologize. I mean, when she gets better.
That's the spirit, Ash. We both lapsed into silence after, sitting side by side simply enjoying each other's company like how we often did as children. But it is in this moment the second truth resonates. Things have changed. Sometime between meeting new people and letting them stay, something has shifted. Although he may never regard me with the same longing he has for her, this dense, clueless man offered constancy my own family could afford to give. No matter the depth of the anger and hurt I've harbored that night, I doubt this man will ever lose his place in my life and I in his. And even with the hollow ache his next words bring.
I just wish I could have said it to her a long time ago. Before any of this happened. I do care about her, despite everything.
Only a hum of agreement makes its way to my throat. An acceptance.
I know.
No further words are exchanged after that, and perhaps it is for the better. The quiet stretches on further until Zachary shows up in search of us. By this time, the seconds and minutes have already blurred together in my mind. It mustn't have been that long, though from his expressions, dark circles under his eyes, red rimming its edges, it's as if he has spent another night on a vigil. Ashton tenses the second he catches sight of it, multitude of expressions flashing across his face. Confusion, apprehension, dread, all in under a minute till it settles back to his usual impassive mask. If given the chance, he'd probably run back there to see for himself, but Zachary raises a stalling hand before he can think of it. The nervous line in his mouth gradually melts into a smile, or one resembling it lately. Seeing a genuine one on any of us seems almost like a luxury. Nevertheless, Ashton lets it ease him. There's nothing else after all.
She's stable now, but they've placed her back in a coma. She'll be under observation for the rest of the day, so no visitors for now.
Still not the best news we've heard in a while. I don't think it's what Ashton's hoping to hear either. We're back to square one, back to another waiting game with no clear end in sight. Of course, none of us mentions it, even if the meaning's all too clear in our heads. There's still, however, relief in this, something we carry when the three of us leave the hospital for now. If that alone will be enough remains to be seen. At least tonight, I'll have something to help take my mind off things. Alright guys, I'll end the video here for today. Thank you for watching. Until the next one.